Watch out, folks. Nelson Peltz wants a seat on the board, and he wants one as well for former Disney CFO Jay Rasulo. And in order to do that, he has issued a series of questions for Bob Iger and the board. Let's talk about those questions here on That Park Place. Hello, everyone. I am Jonas J. Campbell. I am an investigative reporter, and sometimes I like to ask questions, and apparently Nelson Peltz likes to ask those too. Culture, I have a question for you, sir. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. I'm very excited, and I like questions. Questions allow you to think about things and try to drill down to the source of problems.
But why do they do that, Culture? Why do they do that? Well, let's get into it. In an SEC filing, which I believe is linking to the Restoring Magic website here, there is a question that's been laid bare here. Potential shareholder questions for Disney. These all coming from Nelson Peltz and Trian Partners. They seem to address a lot of issues here that they have. So let's talk about them. First of all, does the Disney board regard media experience as a prerequisite for service on the board? If so, what previous media experience did Michael Froman and Mary Elena Lagomasino have before they joined the board? If not, why does Disney claim that Mr. Peltz does not have sufficient media experience? Culture, can you answer that one for me?
Well, I would say that Peltz actually has more media experience than at least two of those people that we talk about at length.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say he has more media experience because of his involvement with MSG Networks. That would be Madison Square Gardens. That being said, most of the people on the Disney board do not have relevant media experience, and unless you count selling ads over at MTV. And selling ads is a noble profession, but also not exactly not exactly the same as working for the Walt Disney Company and trying to lead creative endeavors. Not that that's what Peltz and Rasulo are saying they want to do. But moving on, since we've answered these questions here, Disney's current CEO sold $1 billion of Disney stock over time and holds relatively little today. In 2021, he sold hundreds of millions worth of stock at prices nearly twice as high as the stock price today. What investments afford him a better risk-adjusted return than the company he is himself running? And why won't he meaningfully invest money in support of his own plan at Disney? I wonder if this is really a fair question. Culture, why might Bob Iger be selling his shares?
Well, because he's got some insight into how the performance of the company is going and what the outlook is in the future that maybe other people don't have.
That's a very good point. Also, his compensation, as Disney likes to point out, Bob Iger's compensation is at-risk compensation, meaning that most of it is in stock. So he only keeps a balance of a measly 200,000 shares. So when he receives about 2 million shares a year, unless he's buying Fox, in which they give him $100 million in compensation, he has to sell that in order to pay his bills. Does it say that he wants that cash now as opposed to looking towards whatever he thinks the company is going to grow to later? Maybe there's a good point there. Of course, they always want to harsh Nelson Peltz on the fact that in the 6 million shares that he has, they sold 500,000 or something like that. And I think he's building that up again. Of course, don't quote me on that. That's a guess. Disney's 2024 proxy statement claims that Disney has had no less than 20 meaningful interactions with the Trian Group. However, Disney's proxy statement only discloses 11 of these interactions, many of which, by Disney's own description, were just procedural or scheduling interactions. What were the other 9 meaningful interactions that Disney purports to have had, but which it did not disclose? If Disney considered these other interactions meaningful, why were they omitted from Disney's proxy statement? What could this reveal, Culture?
Say that again?
What would it reveal if Disney is saying that they had 20 meaningful interactions, but only 11 of them made it into SEC filings?
Oh, that's a problem. They really didn't want those other things on the record, and there's a question as to whether or not that would even fall into the category of legal.
I would agree, and I think what this is goes back to the Disney problem of headline chasing, that they want to say that they had 20 meaningful interactions, but I think what the reality of it is, if the SEC were to ask them to create a filing, I think it would probably reveal that there weren't 20 meaningful interactions, or that the word meaningful here is being stretched to its absolute limit. I don't think that they had 20 meaningful interactions.
Yeah, there was an exchange on Twitter. So
Yeah, possibly. Uh, in 2023, Disney CEO was awarded performance-based bonus at 145% of the target base, in part on his assistance with ongoing leadership succession planning. What specifically were the CEO's contributions to succession planning in 2023? Did the compensation committee consider his July 2023 contract extension, which resulted in a significant pay increase, one of the contributions the CEO made? If so, was that regarded positively or negatively by the committee? Of course, Bob Iger searched long and hard and found the best man for the job, in Bob Iger's opinion. I don't understand why you wouldn't pay him for just filling in that form and saying, yes, Bob Iger should be the next CEO of the Walt Disney Company.
well, in his mind, there's nobody better for the job than him for anything, everything.
Well,
I mean,
boy,
yeah.
is that true. He is the end all be all, the man who needs everyone to go out and make those movies so they can bring them back to him so that he can watch them over and over again and tweak them right there. Martin Scorsese, Francis Ford Coppola, Robert Iger.
The
Does Disney's
weatherman.
does Disney's compensation committee have any regrets for structuring its CEO's compensation package in a manner that provided an apparent strong multi-hundred-million-dollar incentive for management to negotiate and complete the 21st Century Fox acquisition, given that the
Ooh.
acquisition is considered by many to be a major disappointment? Why would Disney never answer this question?
Because it would expose just how much of a mistake they made, which we in another video talk about at length. Because my goodness, what a failure. They overpaid to the tune of at least $20 billion, and they really haven't utilized anything from this acquisition effectively at all. I don't know how you would be able to argue with wow.
Yeah,
What a
I think that Murdoch is laughing all the way to the bank on that
um,
one.
yeah, yeah, I think he is. I think right now he's like, well, hey, I could go out and buy another 3 or 4 companies with the extra money I made on this.
It's a very good point. Okay, let's continue on here. Why did Disney's leadership just now implement the strategic transformation of the company to make Disney's businesses more efficient and effective, reinvigorate the creative engines, and maximize Disney's greatest brand and franchise assets? Man, what a sentence there. The stock has been lagging peers for many years. The stock is down in absolute terms over 5 years, for example. Isn't this plan late? Why didn't the board insist on this better plan a year or 2 years or 3 years or 5 years ago? Oh, I think I know the answer to this one, but culture.
No, no, no,
Why
please.
why didn't they consider it? Why did they only start considering these things about a year ago or maybe 2 years ago?
Because it was when they got called on the carpet by Peltz.
Yeah, and in the end, whether or not Peltz wins this proxy fight, it sounds like the Disney company will be better because someone has come in that has enough power to challenge Bob Iger. Think about that. If you're a shareholder and you're listening to this, no financial advice, but why is it that Peltz being here is a positive presence for the company without him even being on that board? What are the things that are going on in Bob Iger's head where he's actually having to consider the financial ramifications of his decisions? I still don't think he's doing a great job there. I think he's
No.
headline chasing, but I think the presence of Nelson Peltz is causing him to work harder than he has ever worked for that position. Other than, sorry, 2004. He worked real hard in 2004 to get that position.
Yeah, I can't argue with that, but I'll also say that right now the board, as it currently is composited, is essentially just a giant extra arm for Iger. It's just a very long arm of yes that's
Yeah,
always coming back his
I would
way.
like to see some non-unanimous decisions coming out of that board.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, well, just consider how united that board is on everything. That they gave a unanimous consent vote to Chapek before they fired him,
That's right. They extended him for 3 years early. They
and
did
then
that early. And then obviously they let him go quite
yeah,
early.
yeah, quite early.
Yeah. What was the business imperative that led Disney to announce publicly at the term sheet stage a three-way skinny sports bundle joint venture, presumably even before the company had a chance to fully vet the idea with the NFL and NBA or prepare final agreements? This premature announcement appears likely to have reduced negotiating leverage as Disney and as a joint venture relative to the sports leagues, and reportedly create confusion among investors, regulators, and key partners. So, what was the benefit of making such an unusual and seemingly early announcement? First of all, when did they announce this? culture, this sports JV.
Wasn't this right before some kind of an important call?
Yes, yes, this was
Yeah.
right before the earnings call, and
Uh,
I think Lachlan Roberts over there at What's Left of Fox also announced his, and I think his stock went up. Fubo TV stock went down. They're not part of this bundle, and they're part of the people that are suing Disney, Warner Brothers, and Fox over it. And of course, the Department of Justice would like to
yeah,
understand what's
yeah,
going on here.
they have some questions.
Yeah, I wasn't I did use the word cartel pretty early, but now other people are using that word as
Yeah.
well. Oligopoly is the term we like to use north of the equator, but generally speaking, you would call all of these companies working together to fix prices a cartel,
Yep.
alleged cartel.
Yeah.
But that being said, I do believe we have a couple more here. Oh my, there's so many of these. There's 11, and we are on number 7. Let's continue here. As Disney implements the ESPN flagship DTC plan, there's a mouthful. Will the company be able to avoid the losses it incurred in other streaming efforts like Disney Plus? Disney Plus, which by the way, right now is being gutted in order to say that it's profitable. They are taking everything away from it in the hopes that they can make enough money and reduce enough costs. This is why so many shows are moving from streaming to theaters or other platforms right now. That's why you see Percy Jackson showing up on Hulu, for instance, and Echo showing up on Hulu, so they can say, no, that was a Hulu expense. That was not a Disney Plus expense. So we're going to assign this amount over to Hulu Plus or whatever. If so, is that because the company will do things differently this time? What mistakes did Disney make with streaming that resulted in being such a costly endeavor? Or does the company intend to follow the same strategy?
Oh, wow,
Oh,
that's
what a
cutting.
question. What
I
a
know.
question.
It's like, hey, when are you going to stop beating your wife?
I mean, this is essentially the question here. Did you do everything right the first time? Are you committed to this plan, or what are you going to change? Please, with your heart in your hand, explain to investors why this was a good idea the first time, why you're definitely going to do it again, or admit what you did wrong. That's a great question. And this one in particular, I want them to answer because they're addicted to this streaming model. I also want to know why they're killing Hulu, but that's a pet issue for me. It's not really a pet issue because Hulu is profitable and Disney Plus is not. So
True.
Disney has acknowledged that the creative engine is stalling and needs to be fixed. Disney CEO, who also saw creative endeavors during his time as executive chairman, recently said about the creative problems that I've always felt the quantity can be actually a negative when it comes to quality. Sorry, did I say quantity? I meant to say quantity there. If that's the case, then how did the creative problem happen in the first place? Culture.
It's a
Do you
good
know the
question.
answer?
It's a good question. How did the creative problem happen in the first place if Iger's been leading it all along?
There's a great answer to this question, and I would recommend reading the chapters on Disney Plus in Bob Iger's Right of a Lifetime, talking about his creative leadership there over at Disney Plus. Here's one. And by the way, I'm going to point out this is not a chart because on the charts talking about the Disney Plus problem, they cap this out at 14 billion. But Disney has invested 80 billion in building a streaming business. If you add the 57 billion net acquisition value of 21st Century Fox, the $9 billion buyout of NBC Universal's stake in Hulu, and the 14 billion in streaming operating losses, the company has now set a target of double-digit margins for the business with no time frame. At the lower end of double digits, that would be approximately 2 to 3 billion of EBITDA and less than 4% pre-tax return. How long will it take to earn a good return on the 80 billion that has been invested? If management has confidence in its plan for streaming, why isn't the company willing to provide investors with more detail about the path and timing to achieve meaningful profitability?
Oh, oh boy. And the funny thing is, they didn't even throw in there the fact that the $9 billion buyout of NBC Universal stake in Hulu isn't even the grand total yet because it's still not finalized.
That's
So
right, and it's not gonna be finalized at least until, the
oh,
later part of this year, so it could be fiscal year 2024 for Disney. It might even be fiscal year 2025
yeah.
for them before
I
that gets finalized.
I actually believe that's more likely, Jonas. I think in fact, that actually benefits Iger to hide that extra whatever billions it is that Hulu is valued at.
I
You know,
wholeheartedly agree, and at the moment, if you want to know why that $57 billion is tied to streaming here, go look at Bob Iger's own answers on why they bought Fox. It's very specifically to lean into streaming. So again, they have another one of these catch-22s. Do they admit that there were linear assets in there, which would, by the way, take away what we've talked about in a different video, how Jay Rasulo is not quite as oblivious as Bob Iger would like to say that he is? Or is Jay Rasulo correct here, and this was for streaming assets, for linear assets, or did they spend all of that money to prop up a streaming business, therefore having a $57 billion net acquisition value for 21st Century Fox? I think that Fox is going to go down as one of the worst decisions, and there are several decisions that Bob Iger and Bob Chapek have made that have been debatably the worst decision. If you categorize political versus business decisions, it's pretty easy to say. I'm not going to get into all of it here, but Disney's made a lot of, I'll say, interesting decisions that have not turned out the way that they anticipated that they would recently. That being said, let's go to the last question here. Does management have confidence in long-term free cash flow generation of the company? Management has issued short-term guidance, but why doesn't Disney issue longer-term targets on cash flow to help its investors better understand where the company is heading and hold management accountable for delivering results that will create value? Culture, do you have an answer for that? Because I don't have an answer for that other than lack of confidence in streaming disruption.
I honestly don't think that they are capable of delivering, and I don't think they have a good way to articulate a path forward. I mean,
I think you're correct. This is a company that has so many question marks on it. I don't understand why they are projecting so much confidence. All they have is announcing things that might come to fruition in the next few years. And okay, that's great. They say they've fixed the creative engine. I don't see the results of that right now. Moana, that's a question mark to me, because you're taking a TV show and turning it into a movie in 6 months. Deadpool is
wait. This is the animation, right?
Yes, Moana. There.
How did that, try to get something done in 6 months animation wise work out for another recent project called Wish?
Oh, I don't remember how that turned out, because I watched that movie and I still struggle to remember it. And I got to say, I'm a person that really likes to pay attention while I'm watching a movie. Go look up the soundtrack to Wish and then see if you remember any of the songs after it's done, or go watch the animation of Wish and then go watch the animation and say, I don't know, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and see what a difference there is between achieving corporate product and achieving artistry. So I think that Nelson Peltz has some pretty good questions here. I don't think that Bob Iger will honestly answer any of these questions, because the transparency that they like to tout over there at the Walt Disney Company right there, it's not happening. They're generally speaking that headline thinking that they want to put forth. Oh, this is our first movie that has a woman of color in a lead role that's directed by a BIPOC man from the alphabet community. That's the kind of thinking that we see from Walt Disney right now, and by that I mean Bob Iger. I don't see, here are our long-term cash flow projections. Here are the numbers that we are going to hit. Here is how we are going to both cut costs, cut the frequency of our releases on Disney Plus, and also drive subscriber growth. By the way, they are going to get subscriber growth, and how are they going to do it? Well, they're going to tell Comcast, please, some of our linear business, can we put that towards Disney Plus? That's going to be the next big boom in streaming right now for Disney Plus. And once all of the cable companies are converted over to Disney Plus added in packages, they're going to reach another plateau, and they're going to have to search even farther and wider. They better fix their content problem by then, because they will have subscriber growth, but it will be at the direct expense of the linear TV business, which they say is profitable right now. I would tend to believe them. Disney Plus, not so sure. Culture, say something profound here to wrap us up. What does Disney need to do? Honestly, if Disney got their fingers out of their ears, what would be the best way to respond to Peltz?
Figure out how to grow and improve without cannibalizing yourself.
Yeah, I would say that. Or to just let him on the board.
Why? That is okay. So that's the biggest question, right? And this is, I mean, not adding Peltz and Rasulo to your board, 2 seats on your board. It shows you have something to hide. You are doing bad things, and bringing them in would expose those things. It is the only reason not to bring those 2 voices into the board. It's the only reason that they go in, and we've talked about this before on the live shows, but that you go in, you sign NDAs. You basically say that we'll do nothing but say nice things about Disney if we're on this board. Okay, so that shuts them up, but does it? Because the only reason that they would be worried, and I know this sounds conspiratorial, it is not. The only reason that they'd be worried, and I've said this to you privately, is there's something criminal going on.
I'm that is such a hard thing to respond to, but at the same time, I do have that question out there. Of course, when they're talking about Sif Todd and Reedy Creek and all of the situation that's gone there have been things that Disney has done that once they hit the light of day have caused additional filings to be made to the SEC and the IRS and other federal agencies. And that's only after a short audit period on something that has existed for almost 60 years. When we look at the company itself, and I know there are people who watch this channel that have gotten into trouble for, I would say, factually reporting to the SEC about what is going on at the Walt Disney Company. People whose lives have been ruined by the Walt Disney Company because of questions about reporting practices and revenue recognition practices. So I'm not going to say you're wrong.
No, I know.
Because I don't think we would ever find out. But that being said, I think we need to save the rest of this conversation for another day. In interest of staying in the kind graces of our tyrannical overlords here.
Oh, sure.
But I do want to say, if you found this conversation interesting or helpful in any way, please do hit the like button. Leave us a comment down below if you have something you would like to say on this matter. And of course, consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.